You know, if they ever need a stunt double, I'm always free and available, except on Tuesdays because it's Ask MandR Day. This is episode 377. On this one, we're talking about the Target LEGO scam that is going on, the new LEGO Marvel 2026 set reveals, my apparent hypocrisy when it comes to LEGO Octan Easter eggs in LEGO Star Wars sets, and much more. If you have a question or topic you want covered on next week's episode, drop in the comment section down below. And we must first start with a little callback to last week's episode because Rizzy Fellas says this doesn't really answer his question. The main thing he was wondering was how to put the Droid's head on C-3PO. Yeah, I definitely read this dude's question about doing a C-3PO battle droid Geonosis thing and flipped it around in my head to be the wrong thing. And so I would say I think it's not as important for them to have the battle droid head on the protocol droid body. Like, I could live without that in a Master Builder Series Geonosis, although you certainly need to have it the other way around where C-3PO is on the battle droid body like I discussed last week. But yeah, I could live without it. I know it's a crazy thing to say, but I'd be okay if they didn't do it, but I certainly wish they would. It would be a very difficult thing for them to do, though, because they'd either have to make a new battle droid head mold, which, like, what would it be? The size of a Geonosian bug headpiece from 2003? Like, it'd probably be pretty ugly at that scale, just too fat. Or alternatively, you have to completely redesign the top of the minifigure torso, which, I mean, frankly, they're just not going to do. So I think that's the sort of thing that would not make it into a Master Builder Series Geonosis set like that. But anyway, I gotta warn you all about some of what's going on at Target in regards to LEGO sets and their prices, as Chance USA asks, what do you think about the price increases at Target? Is this a brilliant scheme to put them all on sale for Black Friday by returning them to MSRP? So I uploaded a little Instagram reel about this, and I'll let it play while I'm talking here, but you can see the prices of some of these sets. Like Chopper is $4 more than retail. Polybags are 20 cents more than retail. The big one most people would like to point out probably is the Juggernaut being $7 more than retail, among many other sets, including some non-Star Wars sets. I think the Fortnite Battle Bus is another big one affected by this, might be $4 over retail. So there's a lot of sets out there at Target right now that are over the normal retail price, which is very abnormal, frankly, for a Target or Walmart. It was very normal for Toys R Us. It's very normal for some of the smaller mom and pop shops. And if you know kind of the back end of how LEGO works with their pricing for mom and pop shops and how that works, and most of you probably don't, but it makes a lot of sense why they charge what they charge. I can understand why a set is $5 more at, you know, Learning Express versus a Target or a Walmart. Like, as much as it sucks, just the economics aren't really in the small store's favor when it comes to buying and selling LEGO sets like that. Like, in a lot of cases, for example, you can actually buy stuff cheaper from Amazon on sale than you can get it wholesale as like a LEGO wholesaler. Like, it's pretty insane how some of these stores have to operate, right? That being said, Target has been raising the retail prices of some sets, and some people would point out and say, well, it must be the tariffs, and that must be why all these prices are going up, which, if that was the case, all of the prices would go up by some even percentage. Or the two sets that are the exact same, the Separatist MTT and the Clone Turbo Tank that came out the same day that have the exact same price, would have at least both gone up the same amount of money, but they didn't. So I don't think it's tariffs. Target has been doing this. The Creative Play Droid Builder was one of those sets maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I swear I saw posts about it being increased in price to like $120. It was some significant, ridiculous amount, much more significant than the sets that I was able to find at my Target the other day that were overpriced. And it's the kind of thing where, like, if you're an in-the-know LEGO consumer and you watch videos like this, you're going to know off the top of your head what the retail prices of a lot of these sets are, and you'll be keen to it. But grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, come Christmas time here, are not going to be keen to it. And I mean, frankly, if you're Target, it's kind of not the worst business idea as far as making more money goes, because every year at the end of Christmas, their shelves are inevitably wiped. Everything sells. You run out of LEGO sets and people just buy whatever's there, whether it's overpriced or not, usually. And, you know, so I can see maybe there's some like crazy big wig suit wearing guy that's like, guys, I got a way we can make $4 more million this year. We increased the Juggernaut by $7, Grogu and the Pram by $4, right? And you just go down the list and increase some of these prices very incrementally, but it makes them a ton more money. And to kind of wrap back to the end of your question, I don't think that it's going to be to put all of these sets on sale. Target usually does sales, and actually a lot of sets at Target are very fairly priced right now. Not everything has gone up in their retail price. They got plenty of sets that are on fair, very good sales. But usually when it comes to like Black Friday, they pick like maybe a dozen sets throughout the entire LEGO lineup, and and they give them like 40% off or something. Something fantastic. Like, it's usually a very good deal, but I don't think it's going to be any of these sets that they have like increased in price. I don't know if it's maliciously like a very purposeful thing, or if it's just some weird thing in their system where prices are getting messed up because maybe the tariffs, who knows, where something weird is happening there. Some are, some aren't, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on if you plan on buying any Lego at Target until further notice, basically, because they could just keep doing this. Who knows? But anyway, next from Alex, he says, with the reveal of the new Lego Marvel subline, the Epic Moment Collection, do you think something like this would lend well to a theme like Star Wars? A couple of easy key moments I could imagine would work for this would be Anakin versus Obi-Wan, the Duel of the Fates, Obi-Wan versus Jango Fett, and Yoda versus Count Dooku. And in a way, we have had this with Lego Star Wars with the $20 duel sets that we had for quite a while, and I actually still think that may be the more ideal thing for Lego Star Wars fans as far as like economically getting the minifigures that people would want out of these types of sets. But the Epic Moment Collection sets from Marvel do seem pretty interesting, and it does give you a little bit more flexibility with what you can do, I would say. You know, for Star Wars, I almost wish they would just axe the silly stand that these are including, because the stand doesn't necessarily contain everything. It's like they made a diorama and then made the build way bigger than the diorama, because the plinth in these sets is very, very small. But it's been quite interesting seeing the reaction to these, as it has been super popular, and I think Lego always takes notes of things like that. If something is working for a Lego Marvel, why would they not want to carry something like that over to Lego Star Wars? Now, I don't think we're going to have any of this in the first half of 2026. You never know for the summer, and certainly 2027 it would be in the cards. We got Marvel busts for 2025, and we're getting Star Wars busts in 2026. This is another thing that is very simple for Star Wars designers to be like, hey, you know, we can do this sort of subline. It would kind of replace the diorama subline, which actually does need to be replaced, and that would probably, you know, people always wonder, what's the next thing? Will they bring Planet Series back? Will they do this? Will they do that? What could they do? This is probably the next thing. This is probably their next subline. Well, I guess we have the Smart Brick subline.
Oh, great.
I don't even count that. That's not cool. So this could be a cool subline, Epic Moments Collection. I know our imaginations can run wild with what could be an epic moment from Star Wars. Certainly the first couple years of them would be all original trilogy, so you got to get through that. But, you know, let's say 2029, 2030 comes around, we could see some cool prequel epic moments, and I'm not even joking, would be like that anyway. Lego Dinosaur says, since the Smart Figs, and we got a lot of Smart Fig questions again, Smart Figs have side of torso printing. Does this mean that we could see side of torso printing for normal minifigs? What figs would you like to see get side of torso printing? I'm not even going to answer the last part of your question, because frankly, no, we're not going to see this on normal minifigures. You're not going to see it as additional detail on minifigures. It's just not going to happen. Basically, I think this is only being done clearly because they have to put something on there. Like, they are required by some law somewhere, whether it's the EU or North America, to put that little trash can thing on the side of the torso so people know not to throw the minifig in the trash because it's got like a battery or electronics in it or something, even though, like, I don't know, when, you know, people don't throw out Lego minifigures, and even if they did, like, they're going to throw in the trash. No one's going to look at that and be like, oh, now I'm going to safely dispose of this. Like, people aren't going to do that. It's just not going to happen. But anyway, yeah, Lego's basically been forced to print on the side of the torso. It was probably that, or put it on the back of the torso, which they obviously already kind of have filled out with part of the design work. I think the other interesting thing about it is the possibility that it's actually UV printed so that it can be a quicker process, but also the fact that there's so many numbers on the side of the torso that seem like they have to change, and would change through different weeks of the year if it is actually the time it was produced. Like, that's going to have to be a weekly change. And so doing it as a UV print would allow it to be a lot more malleable in that way, versus an actual pad print where you would then have to like make a new plate every week or something like that. But regardless, I don't think we're going to see actual side printing torso detail. And if we were, I would imagine Lego would have done that before doing this ugly, disgusting stuff, you know. Next from God Arthur. Do you think the 2022 copyright on the Smart Brick tells us the development cycle for Lego sets is longer than we thought it was, and maybe explains their slow reaction time to fan desires? And no, quite simply, 2022 is very likely just when they copyrighted the design for that version of the minifigure, or like the exact like electronics inside of it or something, and so they probably just put that year year on there for that reason, and potentially we'll see that change in the future. I don't know, but at least on the current leaked version, it said copyright 2022. Also, if you think back to something like the UCS Republic Gunship LEGO Ideas fan vote, I think that wrapped up in January or February of 2020, and the set came out about 19 or 20 months later in August of 2021, and the designers said they hadn't even started on the design or anything when the fan vote happened and ended. So you're looking at a year and a half to produce, develop, finalize a really big UCS set in the gunship and then release it, of course, so the design was probably done in 6 to 12 months, maybe max. And so the copyright on this would, at the time of the release of the Smart Brick minifigures, be 4 years old. It just doesn't take them that long to make sets. And I think UCS Gunship is a great example of that. You can imagine a set like a battle pack could take, is honestly like as little as a couple of weeks to like just do. All you need is some simple minifig designs and a little build, and you throw it to, like, I've seen people build mocks. It can be done very, very well and efficiently. It just depends probably realistically on how many renditions of the thing you go through, and really just only as it gets more complex. Like something like the Separatist MTT, maybe that takes 5 months to design. But still, that's not 5 years. Now, there may be a silver lining for these smart minifigs, as Eric Sue says, I wonder if the new design will have a torso crack problem. If it doesn't, it's a big win for sure. Technically, yeah, a big win, but the cost it comes at of having just ugly text and a trash can on the side of your minifig, I don't think is worth it. You're trading off the potential for your minifig to crack, and that's still going to be there on other parts of the minifigs. The heels can still crack, the arms can still crack. The only reason the torso wouldn't crack is because it's literally glued to the legs, and the leg design would probably be different, so it wouldn't put as much stress on that side of the torso that tends to crack due to the legs. So, yeah, it's great that the torso doesn't crack, but I don't think it's worth that sort of trade-off. That's definitely not what they set out to fix. It just happens to be something that probably won't happen to us. But yeah, I don't care about that, honestly. Yeah, silver lining, sure, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, we've also gotten to the level of coping with the smart minifigs from Brick Spire. He says, can't we just erase that logo at the back and at the sides? And technically, yeah, you probably could take an eraser and literally erase the print off of the minifigure, but I don't talk about Lego figures and sets, and I think most people don't see it this way either, where like you should have to do anything to it, especially a product like this that you're going to be paying God knows how much money for, and it's supposed to be their like holy grail new thing that they're hanging their hat on. And it's literally going to have text on the side of the torso. Like, it's going to be so ugly. But you can't erase it. And I know some people think of this in the context of, like, when I review Lego sets, like, why don't you just do that and then it will be good? And it's like, well, I'm reviewing the product that you're buying, not the product that you can make it into. Which, part of that is what Lego is. But, like, come on, an eraser? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, you can probably do that. But, like, I'm not going to advise you do that. I'm not going to do it myself for sure. Next from Irish, should be off the smart minifig questions. Yeah, we got a good one here. He says, speaking of the haters, he says, have you ever met any of them in person? I've seen you meeting fans at LEGO conventions, but I'd be curious to know if you've ever had any memorable in-person run-ins with the people who complain about you online. There's only one that comes to mind. I think, 99.99999% of the people I've ever met have been great, fantastic. Y'all are wonderful. But there was one that I can remember is at Brickworld Chicago, and this dude comes up to me and he's like, don't you think you're leading a hate campaign against LEGO for their clone troopers? And this was like 2023 maybe. I was honestly just so taken aback by the question. Not like, it was not in a particularly distasteful way, but this was someone I had never met, and it was just like immediate attack of me and what I talk about online. I'm like, yeah, man, the clone troopers are bad. I'm not leading a hate campaign because I say they're bad. It's just not what it is. I don't care. I can lead a hate campaign. I'm sure I could. I could run a dang good one. I've ran fantastic campaigns with Lego stuff before. The Gunship Gang, the mean green, I guess red and white machine there. And of course, the File First Battle Pack movement. But if you're being honest with yourself, the only campaigns I've ever run are very positive ones that have made Lego a lot of money. But maybe I should lead some sort of campaign to fix the clones, because I'm tired of just talking about it. I haven't, I guess, really done anything about it,
Do something about it.
He's really got me thinking here a couple years later, huh? Really backfired on the hater. But yeah, no, that's the closest, I wouldn't even call it necessarily a bad interaction. the guy just had a question I didn't like, I guess. It certainly was phrased as an attack. He's like, why are you leading a hate campaign on LEGO? And I'm like, what I am doing is the farthest thing from a hate campaign. Yeah, I can do that, I guess, but it's not what I want to do. I just want them to make their figures better because they're dog water. So that's how I feel about it. Me and my silly blue outfit here today. Next, from Tabletop Studio 66. Nice, he says, what was your best unintentional LEGO investment? And someone did reply to this with what probably is my answer, being a box of Scarif Troopers, just pure percentage profit, whatever, however you want to break. I guess just literally, if you're calling it investment, how much money you made probably really matters. I bought a box of Scarif Troopers, literally the polybag version of the Scarif Stormtrooper at Brickworld Chicago, I think 2017, maybe 2018. They were $2.50 a figure, 30 in a box, so it was $75 for the entire box. I could have bought more. Like, they were just selling them there from the Legoland Discovery Center that had like a booth there. They were just selling boxes of them. It was the most insane thing. I think it was on the last day of the convention, but don't quote me on that. It's been a while. But yeah, literally $75 a box. Me and my friends all got at least one box. Like, we were just hyped. It was just cheap Lego figures. And it's so weird how it's so different now. Like, that sort of thing would be just all over the place everywhere. And everyone would be like, oh my God, look at what they had, yada, yada, yada. And I guess, let's be honest, Lego wouldn't ever sell anything like that at the convention ever again. It'll probably never be an opportunity that arises again, but man, that was a great buy, right? So $75 for the box, and I think I sold it a couple of years ago for probably about 10 times that. I probably sold it for like $700 or $750 because the figures are worth, $30 each, $40 each in the bag now or something, and I hadn't opened the box because I was like, it's so cool to have a sealed box, and I 10x'd my money on that. So as literally an unintentional Lego investment, because I just happened to be at the convention and we were in line, and I was like, ooh, a box for $75, I'm gonna buy this. In the moment I wasn't necessarily thinking these will be worth 10 times this in God knows how many years, but they happened to be, and that was great. I definitely think that's a great best unintentional Lego investment. I would also just look at my entire life as an unintentional Lego investment in a way. Like, I didn't intend to get into Lego and, have a great career out of it. Maybe my grandparents and parents buying like my first Lego sets counts for that. I know people talk about the LeBron James getting his basketball hoop at like 3 years old. That's me getting my twin pod cloud car. The Unicorn Command Center comes in firing. He says, how come in your UCS Death Star review, you said that the Octane barrel was an Easter egg, but in your UCS AT-AT review, you said it was inaccurate? So honestly, in the AT-AT video, it sounds like I was just pointing out the fact that it is simply inaccurate because I was referencing the cross-section of the AT-AT that they clearly designed it off of. But with the Death Star itself, it's built within the base or stand of the set, and the Death Star is already a very abstract recreation of the Death Star, not necessarily a one-to-one creation of the Death Star like the AT-AT was. And so I wasn't thinking of it in that same way where accuracy necessarily mattered at the base of the Death Star. So yeah, that's probably why I said it there and not with the Death Star video, but either way, it's an Easter egg and it's all in good fun in that particular case. This is one of those things that I love about making YouTube videos though. I haven't watched my UCS AT-AT review since it came out 4 years ago, and you probably watched it the other day, and so you might remember a detail like that. Meanwhile, I couldn't possibly remember having said that. So I just love that about YouTube. I honestly thought it was going to be a much worse take in 2021 about it actually being bad and inaccurate, but no, it's not. It's just like me pointing out the truth. Next from Legal Oof, he says, following the review of the Death Star, do you have any changes in relation to its placement on the 2025 worst to first video ranking? So I think I had it at 10th in the worst to first video, and let me look. Just checked. I did have it at 10th, and the set immediately in front of it was the Battle Droid with Stap. I don't know. I don't think it's better than the Battle Droid with Stap. I think that's close to a perfect set, and the Death Star just isn't, although the Death Star is very subjective because it is a very abstract version of the Death Star versus if you look at something like the Battle Droid with the Stap, that's the Battle Droid with the Stap, that's exactly what it is, right? The Death Star is very much like a different type of thing. So I don't know, I think I would leave it at 10th. I don't think I'd put it over the Stap. The Acclimators at 8, I've got K2SO at 7. I don't think I would put it over those. Like, those are just perfect versions of those particular things, and you have a set with flaws in the Death Star that in a way, because it has like Easter eggs and really fun parts of the build, like you can somewhat turn a blind eye and move it up higher maybe than it would have been otherwise, but it's still flawed, and it's hard to put things that are flawed in significant ways like the Death Star is, over things that frankly just have zero flaws like the Acclimator or K2SO, right?
How that singular focus will reshape our galaxy.
A lot of times I can fall back to that line of thinking when it comes to putting things in order for worst to first. And so, yeah, the Death Star, I think I would leave it 10. I will say a lot of people were shocked that I did my worst to first before I reviewed the Death Star this year, but there's been plenty of worst to first that I've done without having actually like physically built and reviewed every single set in the video. So I didn't think of it as anything particularly special, but probably abnormal given the last 4 or 5 years of the way I've done things. But, you know, it's better than the video coming out 6 months late. Stas Mutar says, what do you think is the most overpriced LEGO minifig right now on the secondary market? Like it ain't that good or from a popular media. However, people are willing to pay a lot for it. I actually have a different perspective on it. I think both of you are like, it's not good from a popular media type of things. Maybe there are some good answers to that. Maybe overhyped might be a better way to look at it, but I think the most overpriced minifig is more of an objective thing in this particular case, at least modern day, because we have rumors of things that are coming out. You saw this happen with Captain Rex from the Venator, because it came out and it was rumored that it was going to be in a microfighter. People knew it's coming out in a microfighter. They knew the value was going to tank, basically, and people still paid a lot of money for that figure. You know, $100, $150, $80, anything over $13, basically, right? Would be too much overpriced. And even though people knew, basically guaranteed that it's coming out, it's going to be exactly the same, people still paid. And I look at a figure in the UCS Razor Crest Mandalorian that has been exclusive for 3.5 years now, and is rumored to come out in a small $10 set for 2026. Now, there's a chance that this minifigure is not exactly the same, as the leaked render that is floating around online is simply just that, a render, and it's a preliminary version of the set, and we just don't know if it will be exactly the same. But if you look at the last 6 months sales on Bricklink, the figure is selling for an average of $35. That's 3.5 times more than you're going to have to pay in 2 months. Objectively, that one is ridiculously overpriced if you break it down percentage wise. I mean, it's $25, and if you think about that in the scale of how expensive some other minifigs are, like the Hot Tub Stormtrooper is worth like $200 out of the Death Star last I checked. $35 versus $10 isn't quite the big difference that could be if they ever put that in like a microfighter. You know, it's a very different thing, or even like a $50 set or $100 set. That still can be a huge price difference too. But yeah, I look at the Mando from the UCS Razor Crest right now as a figure that like you shouldn't even buy, and you should just wait. Like they might not put it in the $10 set. It very likely will come in the $10 set. That's the current rumor. That's the current leak. But until you get the final design, final release, you don't know. But that being said, I wouldn't buy one for the next month and a half until you know. Like, there's no reason to. So, yeah. Anyway, that's where I'm going with that. Next from Cameron, he says, I know you answered my question last week. I really appreciate the commentary on it. You hit it spot on. But what do you think the May 4th GWP is going to be this year? I noticed ever since they started doing the boxed ones, they have some sort of correlation to the year of the May 4th UCS set. And if you haven't been paying attention, I just uploaded a video on this the other day. The UCS May 4th rumor is a N1 starfighter from The Mandalorian. And I think if you were going to do something related to that, yeah, it would make a lot of sense for 2026. I mean, the movie's going to be coming out right around then. A Mando and Grogu GWP in some form or fashion, it would just make the most sense possible for next year. Now, the exception to your rule that you came up with, as you pointed out, is the droid carrier for 2024, as it was only for the anniversary of the Phantom Menace, had nothing to do with the UCS TIE Interceptor from that year. So it's certainly no law that the May 4th GWP has to match the UCS set or be related to it in any way. And I certainly don't hope they do that every year, but for 2026, it would make a ton of sense for it to be so. I have given it zero thought as to like what they would actually do as a GWP from The Mandalorian. It's a lot easier for me to rattle things off from, you know, original trilogy and prequel trilogy for that. But, you know, let me know your thoughts. I'm curious what people would like to see as a GWP from The Mandalorian. Probably the TV show. I doubt the GWP would be new movie based, so that's another thing to consider. But I think it will be a very interesting year for the GWP because there's a lot they could pull from. Dark Lord Dad says, what are your thoughts on the original price labels on old, new, and box sets? I recently obtained the set 7200 Final Duel 1 in box in great condition, except for the bright green stamp sized $6.94 Walmart price tag right over the Star Wars logo. Should I carefully remove it, or does it add some sort of nostalgic or intrinsic value? I think there are very few price tags that may add value to any sort of collector out there. I personally cannot think of one for myself, But you never know. There are people out there that are in the market for any sort of thing, and a Toys R Us sticker might do it for someone. That might make them pay the extra $5 or $10, or who knows, But that being said, I don't think there's a lot of value there for 99% of the population, if not more. Obviously, there is the nostalgic end of it, though, and if you had personally bought that set in Walmart back in 2002 and maybe lost a box and got this new one, but and it still had that Walmart sticker again, maybe that's a good reason to leave it on there. But personally, I take the stickers off if I get sets with stickers. Mostly I avoid buying them with stickers unless the deal's just too good to pass up. I'd just rather spend the same money and get a version without a sticker, or a few more dollars and get it without the sticker, just because it's cleaner to me. And I guess I use it for video content, so it's different there too. But you're obviously maybe in a different position. But as someone that's like looking to buy it and cares about the box condition, it kind of turns me off a lot of the time. So yeah, I would personally remove it. I would advise you to remove it, but at the end of the day, it's your box, do what you want. Pearshik Games says, do you think grading for LEGO minifigures should become more of a thing like grading trading cards? Absolutely not. I am not a fan of that for LEGO minifigs or sets. People get the whole set sealed in box graded, which doesn't make the most sense because you never know the condition of the thing inside. It could be in horrible condition, or perhaps even worse, the set could be incomplete or have the whole contents replaced with noodles. You never know. People do bad things out there. But regardless, the grading minifigures, maybe more specifically, the way I view it is it's just arbitrarily adding value to a minifig. The idea that the market sets the price for a figure, whether a figure is $200, $2,000, $2. It is what it is. It's the market price. But the idea that you can just put it in a box that has a number from somebody and then it's worth more money, less money, it's so arbitrary to me. And I don't like it, and I think it's stupid. And then you're not going to take the minifig out of that case. I think that's stupid as well. I keep a lot of mine stored and nicely displayed, but I can remove them without it losing value in a way. And as someone that's collected Lego my whole life and been involved in the online space my whole life, basically, I just look at it as a way people want to try to increase the value of their minifigs arbitrarily or sets arbitrarily, with just because. I don't know. It feels like they're pulling it in from cards because it makes money in cards, and that's the only reason it's a thing for people with Lego, or the few people that do it, not because there's any real reason to do it, because I don't see a reason to do it. Why? You can look at a minifig and see if it looks like it's in good condition for you or not. I'm not seeing the value there personally. Favorite comment of the week, hands down, from Shayuli, who says, I don't know why, but my boyfriend just keeps watching this dude yap. I would wake up in the morning to his face, and sometimes his yaps about Lego are the last thing I see before I go to bed. I hope you wake up to this very moment right now and you see it. You're in a nightmare. Eric Andre, nightmare, nightmare, nightmare.
Nightmare, 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 nightmare.
His voice is the equivalent of propaganda for me nowadays. Helmet Hole's bad. That's propaganda, I guess. Yeah, man, your boyfriend's a good guy. He's obviously jacked, probably about 6'7". I didn't mean to do that, but I did it anyway. And he's definitely raking in $1 million a day. So, if your one complaint about him is that he watches me on YouTube, I would just keep that to yourself. I wouldn't let him in on that one. It's probably just his guilty pleasure. Honestly, though, pretty valid crash out. If I had no interest in LEGO Star Wars, I would probably be pretty annoyed by someone just yapping about LEGO Star Wars. So, I get it, but, you didn't have to be so mean. Anyway, that's all the questions I got for this epic Halloween edition of Ask MandR Productions. If you have a question or topic you want covered on the next one, drop in the comment section down below. Hit the like button while you're there. You can check out more epic Lego content. I won't be looking like this, unfortunately. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of people probably want me to dress up like this every time, but I can't do it. Hair and makeup takes forever these days. Yeah, you can check out more videos on the end screen. Let you enjoy this a little bit more. End screen now.